This is Michael Popok for Legal AF. I found it. I went through the entire haystack of 1,889 pages that have now been disclosed to the public in the DC election interference case against Donald Trump, and I have found it. Jack Smith's shout out to the Meidas Mighty and the illegal AFers and the Meidas Touch network, but because he put in his evidence an actual retweet by Donald Trump of a Meidas Touch photo of Times Square showing that the winner was Joe Biden with the headline "Loser." And Donald Trump had a comment about that, and it was included in the data dump now in the public domain, meaning Jack Smith's going to either be using it to help keep his superseding indictment alive against the immunity determination, or he's just effing with Donald Trump. And it gave a little bit of a Subway sandwich under the arm, lunch pail and thermos in the hand. Shout out to the Meidas Touch network. Either way, I want to cover here one slice of what I learned in my second pass through 1,889 pages. The whole section in volume 2 of the 4-part appendix, sounds like a Netflix special, devoted to Donald Trump's tweets, the best of Donald Trump's tweets. That's where, of course, I found the Meidas Touch one. Let me focus on that first because I want to. So all of a sudden I'm going through everything, and we're going to put it up on the screen. And I see the Meidas Touch logo. Holy schmagoli, we've made the big time. And there is a reproduction on, for those that are following at home, it's in the second volume, page 103 of 246. And it says a picture of the, actually I said Times Square, that's actually 30 Rock in New York, where they projected Biden the winner. I think that was actually of a certain state, and Meidas wrote "loser" all in caps. And then Donald Trump had this to say in response. I don't know why, but we have some big things happening in our various litigations on the election hoax. Everybody knows it was rigged. They know Biden didn't get more votes from the black community than Obama. Certainly didn't get 80 million votes. Look what happened in Detroit, Philadelphia, plus, or please, or whatever he's trying to say. I love that that's in there. Why is that in there? First, let me do a little backup for those that are coming into the story just now. Jack Smith filed, because he had to, a 165-page brief detailing in excruciating detail the amount of evidence he had and the arguments that he had against Donald Trump to show that none of his actions that are in the superseding indictment, which Jack Smith obtained after the July 1st decision by the Supreme Court. He had the benefit of the Supreme Court's decision on immunity. He then got a new grand jury to issue a new indictment against Donald Trump, mindful of the teachings of that decision. Trump versus U.S. on July 1st. He gets the superseding indictment after July 1st. Then Donald Trump says, well, everything in there is immune. Says, well, not quite. There's three types of analyses that have to be done by Judge Chutkan, according to Judge Roberts, Chief Justice Roberts' decision. What is core absolute presidential authority or conduct, which is given absolute immunity? There's very few things that fall in that bucket, and none, I would argue, in the superseding indictment. What is official conduct stretched to its outer boundaries, which is given a presumption of immunity, but that can be overcome by the prosecutor showing that it shouldn't be immune conduct, it's criminal conduct, it's private, it's personal. And then personal conduct, which is prosecutable. That's how we got here. 165 pages filed. Donald Trump says, put a pin in that. I'll file mine after the election. Then Jack Smith says, yeah, but I have a 4-volume appendix with 1,889 pages of documents and information and evidence supporting my 165 pages. And Donald Trump said, whoa, we don't want to see that. Don't do that I don't need that before the election. But we've got public access First Amendment rights of the public to see everything before the election. And so Judge Chutkan finally, after giving Donald Trump one last reprieve, she pulled the switch and released to the public today. And so we're making our way through 1,889 pages, although a lot of the pages, about 70%, are sealed away and still redacted, subject to further removal. But I've seen what I wanted to see. So in there, they are trying to prove that the actions of Donald Trump are criminal in nature, that overcome the official conduct of somebody, especially if these are events out after he was president, after he left office. There's a number of pieces of evidence about comments and statements and tweets that he made when he was no longer president. Can't be official conduct. And then you've got the things that happen where he's just like campaigner in chief trying to cling to power. And I think this falls into that category. This Meidas Touch little beauty, my little gold nugget for my hot take. I think that's why this is in here. That, and I think he wanted to F with Donald Trump and stick it to him with Meidas Touch. So what else do we have, Popok? All right, we got other stuff. We've got the back and forth between Chris Krebs, who was the director of cybersecurity. He was the CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Administration, which was responsible to make sure that the election's integrity was preserved and were secure. He announced right after, on November 17th, he announced to the world in a social media posting while he was still the head of CISA that on allegations that election systems were manipulated, 59 election security experts all agree in every case of which we are aware, these claims either have been unsubstantiated or are technically incoherent. That scientists have no credible evidence of computer fraud in the 2020 election, but policymakers must work with experts to improve confidence. He also said this was the safest, most secure election ever. Donald Trump didn't like that, and then he undermined him, Chris Krebs, before he fired him. And here's what he said in a tweet on November the 18th, the following day. The recent statement by Chris Krebs, it's blacked out, but it's Chris Krebs, on the security of the 2020 election was highly inaccurate in that there were massive improprieties and fraud, including dead people voting, poll watchers not allowed into polling locations, glitches in the voting machines, which changed votes from Trump to Biden, late voting, and many more. Therefore, effective immediately, Chris Krebs has been terminated as director of Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. That's how Chris found out he got fired, in a tweet. And there you have them. And that's important because Donald Trump, by this point, remember, this is not all the evidence against Donald Trump. This just was what was necessary on this exercise. There's lots more evidence. But by November 17th, he already had credible evidence from people in his administration, his inner circle, people he hired to investigate fraud, that there was no fraud outcome determinative fraud on the election, that there were no dead people voting. There were no all that list of things that he said happened to make the election be in doubt. Yet he still continued to do that and fired the person, Chris Krebs, who spoke truth to power. Now, look, I've tried meal delivery plans and meal kit plans, but finally, the gourmet in me is being taken care of with Cook Unity. Now, my family is assured of having creativity and ingenuity of chefs and their best recipes right in my kitchen every night. One of my new favorites is a meal created by Chef Santiago Lopez. Mexican shrimp and chorizo paella and jalapeno cream sauce. I couldn't even get the meal's title out before I started salivating. And I got breaking news. Cook Unity is the #1 meal delivery service in the USA. And it's easy to understand why. Cook Unity is the first ever marketplace where everyday folks like us discover and celebrate the absolute best food the world has to offer. With award-winning chefs, local farm fresh ingredients, and vibrant flavors delivered directly to your door. Go to cookunity.com/legalaf or enter code legalaf before checkout for 50% off your first week. My wife and I are digging, exploring, and being exposed to chefs around the country that we perhaps would never have met otherwise, and having the ability to see every ingredient used and calorie count laid out easily, along with hundreds, if not thousands, of reviews. Our latest fave, the spicy rigatoni alla vodka with crispy basil breadcrumbs, by Larry and Mark Forgione with over 3,400 reviews. Forget farm to table, think chef to platform. We felt like Larry and Mark were joining us for their meal and we were at their chef's table in our kitchen. And the cleanup after is a breeze. And that's super important in our household with a 4-month-old daughter, a dog, and a cat. The chefs you see on TV and in 5-star kitchens are the chefs that make your Cook Unity meals. Their roster of all-star chefs includes Food Network alums, James Beard Award winners, and acclaimed restaurateurs, balancing flavor and nutrition in small batch meals sent fresh, not frozen. Choose from hundreds of meals prepared by award-winning chefs, or let them choose for you. No cleanup or meal planning. Meals delivered fully cooked. You just heat in as little as 5 minutes. And flexible commitment-free subscriptions. Skip deliveries, pause or cancel anytime. Enjoy restaurant-quality meals for a fraction of the price. Subscriptions start as low as $11 a meal. Eating well is easy with Cook Unity. Affordable food crafted by award-winning chefs delivered to your door. Go to cookunity.com/legalaf or enter code legalaf before checkout for 50% off your first week. That's 50% off your first week by using code legalaf or going to cookunity.com/legalaf. Then you've got the set of tweets that are the pressure campaign about Mike Pence. But first, we got to relive the ones that he did while he was sitting in the dining room watching the Capitol burn on Jan 6th. So right at the moment where all of his advisors and lawyers flew into the dining room one at a time and all together to try to convince Donald Trump to do the right thing and stop the several thousand people before any of the 5 people, Capitol Police and others, died, before hundreds of Capitol Police were injured, Donald Trump had an opportunity, as only he could, to blow the bullhorn and blow the whistle and get those people out of there. And they wanted him to write an email or a tweet or make a public statement in which he did that. Instead, this is what he wrote right at the wrong moment when it was going to tip over into a major pitched medieval battle for the soul of democracy, or it was going to just peter out and everybody was going to leave. Here's what he wrote. These are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election, victory, that's for Trump, is so unceremoniously, viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been badly, unfairly treated for so long. Go home with love, in peace. Remember this day forever. Is that helpful? That's going to tamp down, or is that going to be kerosene or gasoline or rocket fuel on the flames and the passions? It was so bad that even Dan Scavino, close confidant of Donald Trump, ran in there and said, you see those smoke coming out of the Capitol? That's on your watch. That's your legacy. What are you going to do about it? He said, well, Chris, that's what happens. And he almost started to paraphrase this tweet. Now, Dan Scavino's interesting. He's going to testify against Donald Trump, even though you can't tell it from his social media posts, where he still looks like a Trumper, but he is. And he used to write the mean tweets for Donald Trump when Donald Trump didn't. So people are like, God, he's so prolific. Look at all these mean tweets he's doing at all these different hours. A lot of that was Dan Scavino. And Scavino was heading out of the dining room area off the Oval Office. And when this tweet went out, bing, it buzzed on everybody's device in the inner sanctum of Donald Trump. And they all ran ready to wring Chris Krebs's neck because they know he was the last one to talk to Trump. They said, are you insane? That's not what he's supposed to write right now. Or no, I'm sorry. Did you write that, Chris? Did you write that, Scavino? Because that's not what's supposed to be written. And he said, I didn't write it. Meaning, don't blame me. We know who wrote it. This is what happens when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously, viciously stripped away from great patriots. Keep it up, guys. Love you. That's what it says. And then later, when he starts to think better of it, and it rages on, this is like, 6, 7 o'clock at night. I'm asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. To remain peaceful? That suggests they were peaceful to begin with. He's got the reports. He's watching MSNBC. He's tweeting away and looking at social media. He knows it's not peaceful. No violence. Too late. This is like putting, closing the door after the cow is left. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. There wasn't a lot of respecting of Metropolitan Police and Capitol Police at that moment. There was a lot of bashing of their brains in with their own shields and batons and any random object that they could get their hands on, from flagpoles to bike racks, to wooden poles. There was a lot of bear spray being sprayed in their face. If that's what you meant by respect, then that's what was going on. And that's another, tweet by Donald Trump. And then, And then at the end of this is like really at the end. Please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They're truly on the side of our country. Yeah, okay. So that's in there. Then there's the pressure campaign against Mike Pence, suggesting that Mike Pence has the power to overturn the results of the American people. And Mike Pence can not agree not to certify and turn it over to the states and all the pressure campaign. And that's all there as well. So my first, look, there's 1,889 pages. I've got about 400 pages of stuff that I'm making my way through, but I didn't want to wait till I was done. I wanted to, as I do each section, I wanted to get on here with a hot take here on Legal AF and on the Meidas Touch Network and bring it to you. Now, let me end the hot take this way and remind you, this is not a trial in the box. This is not all the evidence that Jack Smith has. It's not even close. It's about one issue, whether Donald Trump is immune or whether any of his actions are prosecutable. And that has to be determined first by Judge Chutkan, because the Supreme Court says so, then an appellate court, then the United States Supreme Court ultimately again. And so he just put the bare minimum, just enough of what he needs, Jack Smith, to prove that his superseding indictment survives the immunity determination. No more, no less. We don't have the 100, all of the witness statements for all of the people. And a lot of it is still undercover. I can't tell you what exactly. There's so many pages of redaction and sealing. I'm sure there's grand jury statements in there. I just can't see them. I can't report on them yet. Over time, they'll be revealed to the public as these people testify, but not now, right? But we know there's 77 witnesses at least. They're numbered that way in the 165-page brief by Jack Smith. I don't have the witness statements for any of them available. I've got an excerpt from Mike Pence's book, So Help Me God, which he talks about his conversations with the president, but I don't have like Mike Pence's witness statement. I've got 17 witness transcripts of interviews from the Jan 6 committee, and I can sort of piece together over time, and I will on these hot takes, who it is and what they're saying. This is like, I said this on an earlier hot take, this is like walking into a kitchen and seeing 500 ingredients for a 5-course meal laid out in the kitchen. Just sitting there. And then you're, for the big bucks, for the $100,000, you have to look around and guess the actual recipe and how, and in what proportions, in what measurements, what order, and how high to put the oven. I mean, it would be impossible. So we only know, and we don't even have the whole meal. We have like one course, and then we have to guess the other 5 courses. This is at best a trailer for the coming attraction of the trial at best. So don't be concerned, like, where's this and where's that? Why don't we know that? We know a lot of it. A lot of this was publicly available. And I think Jack Smith sort of sided on, let me give him the publicly available stuff. I don't want to give him the hot docs, the hot exhibits that I'm keeping in my back pocket once the superseding indictment is sort of stamped with their seal of approval and I can try this case. He's turned all the documents over to Donald Trump. So I don't want you to think he's sandbagging anybody, but he doesn't know how they're going to use them. He doesn't have the playbook. He just knows there are plays in the playbook. And that's, I think, where the prosecutor wants to leave the defense at this point. We'll follow it all. You're here on Legal AF and the Meidas Touch Network. I got great news. You can see from the volume of information and data at the intersection of law and politics, we can't do it all on Meidas Touch alone. So Meidas Touch and Legal AF got together and formed Legal AF MTN for Meidas Touch Network. Come over there. I'm the chief curator. I'm putting together all of the content and information. It's not just mine. Karen Friedman-Kniflo is there. Dina Dahl and I are doing unprecedented about the United States Supreme Court once a week. We've got Popok at the intersection with all of my hot takes. We've got court accountability action. Amazing, amazing. Don't miss their hot takes in the playlist. Amazing stuff about corruption and ethical violations at the federal courts up to the Supreme Court. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, until my next Legal AF MTN, subscribe. Content. I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Meidas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.